So The Last of Us 2 Remastered came out the other day, and quite honestly, I've been rather satisfied with the world's reaction to it. Like, yeah, you had the diehard Naughty Dog fanboys praising it right on schedule, but for the most part, the internet's reaction to Last of Us 2 Remastered was somewhere in between annoyance and indifference, which is what something like this deserves. In case you don't know my extended thoughts on this scam, I point you towards this video where I spend the first few minutes going into grave detail as to why it's a scam, but the quick TLDR, Last of Us 2 Remastered is a glorified stability patch being sold for as much money as Sony can get away with, basically just as a scheme to pad their 2024 release schedule and make some money off of the absolute sheep that eat up anything with a Naughty Dog logo on it. The quote visual enhancements are laughable. The fact that it's still running fidelity mode at 30 frames per second is a slap in the face to anyone who can read above a 3rd grade level, and the no return mode could have been released as simple DLC for the existing version of the game, but even then it's the most painfully standard roguelike experience I've ever seen, to the point that I actually have trouble calling it a roguelike in good conscience because I'm someone who actually enjoys roguelikes. It's basically just Horde from Gears of War, but recreated in the Last of Us 2 combat system with enough item and weapon randomizers that they can technically call it a roguelike in the trailer. Not that I'm surprised or disappointed by this, because this is Naughty Dog we're talking about, and if you're expecting Naughty Dog to make something with gameplay that's more complex than navigating a mall food court, then you're setting yourself up for disappointment. That was all supposed to be a TLDR, and I went off the rails a bit. Yeah, anyways, basically, Last of Us 2 Remastered is a scam, and there have been countless other remastered games, and even free next-gen updates that gave you more of an improvement over the original game, but since this is a Naughty Dog game, and Naughty Dog can get away with murder for some fucking reason, some absolutely clueless people have tried to defend it. I made an entire video poking fun at these people, and that video went over well, but naturally, I got a number of comments in that video that tried to super intelligently and intellectually debunk my arguments. So now I'm going to make fun of you people too, because your arguments are terrible. And before we get started, let me make one thing clear that apparently some people did not internalize when I said it in the last video. I am not saying Last of Us 2 Remastered is not a step up from the original version. I'm not saying Last of Us 2 Remastered's bonus content isn't probably at least kind of cool for fans of the series. I'm not even talking about Last of Us 2 as a game at all. I'm simply saying Last of Us 2 Remastered, taken as a standalone game like Sony wants us to take it, is a scam. It does not do enough to justify being a remaster, and in my opinion, it doesn't even do enough to justify being worth a $10 upgrade if you're one of the people who has that option, because as I established in the last video, not everyone actually has that $10 upgrade option. The rest of you are paying $50 for it. So the whole, ooh, it's only $10 thing is not a valid defense. But with that out of the way, let's get into some of the amazing and intellectual takedowns I got in response to my Last of Us 2 Remastered video, and we can all see why the Last of Us fanbase is seen as the smartest and most mature in the gaming community. Starting with, how about this comment? Let's take a look at this one. Ah, yes. I can feel the intelligence just spilling out of this community. Ultimate Jigglypuff says, it's $10 for a brand new game mode and graphical improvements, however minor, that's a good deal where I come from.
Hey pal, you just blowing from Stupid Town?
And that one piggybacks nicely into this one from @Croc101 says, bro, it's $10. No, it's not. And I'm tired of pretending it is. I spent a decent amount of time on this $10 point in the video that you commented these things on, so thanks for declaring to everybody that you didn't actually watch the thing you commented on, you fucking goofballs. But let's just go through this again. If you want to get Last of Us 2 Remastered for $10, you have to either own the game digitally on your PlayStation account, or own a physical PS4 copy of the game and a PS5 with a disk drive, which, as you all know, is not all PS5s. So if you own a PS4 disc of Last of Us 2, but you have the digital-only PS5, you have to pay full price for the remaster. Also, if you don't have the game digitally and are a new buyer, because, you know, one of the points of remastering a game is to introduce it to new buyers, you have to pay $50. And before you say, well, why not just get the PS4 version and then pay the $10 upgrade fee for a discount? Well, Sony thought ahead and priced said PS4 version at $40, so you're not actually getting a discount. The "it's only $10" argument simply does not hold up under any amount of scrutiny, because not everyone is getting it for $10, and in order to get it for $10, you have to have already bought it at least once. So quite literally, this is not a $10 remaster. But let's just take this stupid argument at face value. Let's say this actually was a $10 remaster. Does that make it any better? Because given the fact that I literally gave you a laundry list of games in the original video that got free next-gen updates that did more than the remastered version of Last of Us 2 does, and Santa Monica Studios recently gave God of War Ragnarok an extremely substantial free content patch in the form of Valhalla, the "it's only $10" argument really isn't a good argument, because, put simply, it's not a real point. And even if it was a real point, it arguably still would not even be a winning one. Moving on. At Kool-Aid Man says, "Yes, no, I feel so played by spending $10 for DLC when every other game, more or less, if you wish to upgrade it to the next-gen conservation, will require at least $10. That's including from Microsoft as well there, buddy." No, no, that's... Just no. And trust me, I own all the consoles, so I know the fucking prices on the motherfucker as well, and fuck and motherfucker are censored. Also, before I continue, just off the top of my head, the Gears 5 next-gen patch, the Halo Master Chief Collection next-gen patch, like, those were free. Those were free updates. In case you didn't see the original video, I recommend watching that one, but I did a whole laundry list of next-gen patches. I'll just show that clip of the video again. Games that got next-gen patches on the 9th-gen consoles that improved the 8th-gen console version more than Last of Us 2 Remastered improved the version that already existed on the PS5. Gears 5, Doom Eternal, God of War 2018, Last of Us 2, ironically. Like... fucking come on, guys. Master Chief Collection, Borderlands 3, Witcher 3, Destiny 2, Resident Evil 2, 3, and 7. Now I'm tired, so it's time to go back to the main part of this video. Yeah, all of those, save like maybe one or two, if I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt, they're free. That was the point of that section, but let's keep going with this stupid comment. The only difference, truly, is that last generation Xbox didn't really release jack shit, and again, shit is censored for some reason, as far as games go for first-party titles, so they don't really have a lot of games that they can look at their new console and be like, hey, let's make a clean, shiny new version of this, but when they do, it costs an extra penny to fucking upgrade it now, doesn't it, boy? Again, all of the Xbox games that I listed in that segment that you seem to be referring to were free upgrades. But you know what I love about people trying to defend Last of Us 2 Remastered? No one can seem to decide if it's a game or a DLC. Like, if you say Last of Us 2 Remastered is good, that's because it's a great game. It's a great game release. It's a great new game. But if you say it's bad, well, why are you complaining about a DLC? Like, you're writing this whole fucking essay of a comment here because apparently people are complaining about a $10 DLC, but like, it's not a $10 DLC. It's a standalone remastered game release. Like, bro, you're out here trying to talk shit to anyone criticizing the thing when you literally don't even know what the thing is that you're defending. Also, grow a fucking spine and write the swear words out. Writing censored versions of swear words in the comment section of a video full of swear words just makes you look like an oversensitive pansy. So, the target audience for Last of Us 2. Corey says, this is a real comment from the IGN comment section. I hope they remaster these games every generation personally. I won't be buying it now, but I'll 100% pick this up before my next Last of Us playthrough, which will happen. Shit. I hope they remake the first and second when Last of Us 3 comes out. If any game deserves these treatment, it's these games. When will it be enough? You know, like when will it be enough? How many times does the game have to be remastered, and how many times does it have to be touched up for you to be like, yes, now this is the best version of the game? Because, like, I can think of games off the top of my head that have an original version and a remastered version, or even multiple remastered versions, and I'm like, yeah, I have a favorite out of these. Or like, oh, I have a remastered version that I think was unnecessary. Just off the top of my head, COD 4. I think the COD 4 remaster, while a decent product, the original one's better. I just think it feels tighter. I think it's more responsive, and I think the aesthetics fit better with the original art style. And in the last video, I made a point to mention the Gears of War Ultimate Edition, which is a big, hefty remaster. There was some debate over whether or not it's a remake, but according to the Wikipedia page, it's just a hefty remaster, but, you know, that's kind of besides the point. I've seen plenty of people argue that they think the remastered version ruins that game's art style, and you know what? To some extent, I agree with those arguments. But also, now that I'm saying all this out loud, I don't think Last of Us fans will ever have to worry about a remastered version of the game ruining the original's art style, because that would imply Naughty Dog does anything substantial in their remasters. Hoo boy. At It's an Ocean 98 writes me an essay. Let's go through this point by point. He says, this has to be the most brain-dead thing I've ever watched. The negative review shown looked like it was written by a child. The new roguelike mode, No Return, is lackluster, does not elaborate despite being paid to elaborate. Buddy, he literally did elaborate in the next sentence. Like, look, this was in the video that you wrote an essay about. Like, are you good? He continues, Sony fans are the worst group of people to ever develop thumbs and should never be on Twitter, but to try and downplay how strong of a DLC No Return is actually wild. Is the remaster much different to the base game? Not really outside of the content additions, but that's literally the selling point of the remaster is this new DLC. The criticism of Naughty Dog and Sony not releasing it as a free update, much like Sony Santa Monica did with God of War Ragnarok, is completely valid. It is a bad look when you have the same company release similar modes back to back, one with a paywall and one without, but as a piece of downloadable content, No Return is stacked with content. It appeals to the many challenge runners and speedrunners of the game, people who have dedicated thousands of hours to learning its perfect third-person combat, and now they have a brand new playground to mess around in. For me, $10 is a steal for what we got. When you say it looks average at best, it's kind of redundant. People can look at any game and say that. Okay, I'll elaborate a bit. Also, at It's an Ocean 98, if you're somehow watching this video, I actually genuinely appreciate this comment. You took the time to write out an actual thought-out criticism of my points, and I genuinely appreciate that. I'm not trying to dig on you just for criticizing me. Frankly, I wish everyone who did criticize me was this thorough about it, but anyways. The reason I thought No Return looked average at best, and the reason why I called it average at best, I think that's the wording I used, and also why I still hold that opinion now that I've seen quite a bit of it in action, is because in terms of being a roguelike, which it's marketed as, it is incredibly standard. If you're looking at No Return as a way to experience more Last of Us combat, I'm sure it's great. I'm sure it's exactly what you wanted. But if you're someone who is looking at it as a roguelike, which is what they wanted you to look at it as, it is painfully standard. And if you want to look at No Return as the main justification for the $10 fee, I'll point you back to God of War Valhalla, which was not only a much more substantial roguelike, but was also completely free. My point is that the graphical enhancements are not enough to call this game a remaster, and I am not of the opinion that No Return makes up for that lost ground, because frankly, I've seen asset flip fan mods that do so much more than this. Maybe I'm just missing something. I'm not ruling it out. I'm not a fan of the Last of Us games. I think they have solid gameplay, but I'm not really gripped by them. But as someone who was really hoping for a cool roguelike, because again, they told me to be excited for a roguelike, I am supremely underwhelmed by No Return. And if you're not, that's cool. But really, my arguments in the last video, calling the game a scam, at no point did I say the game was a scam because of No Return. I was calling the game a scam because it's a remaster that is not a remaster. But let's continue here. The DLC was for fans of the original game from 2020. I'd wager to guess 90% of those fans this was aimed at already have an original copy of Last of Us 2 as well as a PlayStation 5, so a $10 upgrade seems more than reasonable. Homie, Last of Us Remastered is not a DLC. It's not a DLC. That is the criticism. If it were a DLC, I wouldn't have said a word. I've said multiple times, I believe in multiple videos, that everything being called Last of Us 2 Remastered should have been a DLC for the existing version of the game. Genuinely, I wouldn't have said anything if this was a DLC, but it's not a DLC. It is a standalone, remastered, quote, game with an upgrade path for some of the owners of the original. That is where the issue lies. I don't feel like I was ambiguous about that in my original video. And he finishes his comment, had Naughty Dog named this version Last of Us Part 2 Director's Cut, you wouldn't have your panties in a twist now, would you? Because Ghost of Tsushima did that exact thing and it was $25, plus it also locked lip syncing behind the paywall. Yeah, no, I actually wouldn't have said anything if it was called a Director's Cut. Like, genuinely, I wouldn't have made that video. If they called this game, Last of Us 2 Director's Cut, and it was just a native PS5 version of the game with some bonus content, I wouldn't have nearly as much of an issue with it. But the fact that they called it remastered with no actual substantial remastering, and then they tack on a bonus mode that is absolutely not of the same value or effort level as a free DLC released for a different first-party PlayStation game like 2 months ago, that is the problem. You're absolutely absolutely right that if this were titled Director's Cut, I wouldn't really be that upset about it. I'd probably just make a couple snarky comments about it being yet another Last of Us re-release, but like, that would be it. My issues lie with it being sold as a remaster when it literally is not a remaster. But also, just to wrap up my argument here, even calling this a Director's Cut would be a tough sell now that I'm Googling a little bit. I never actually played the Director's Cut of Ghost of Tsushima. I only played vanilla, but apparently that game's Director's Cut added an entire new island. It added some new story content, some new combat options, new music, new armor, and all of that in addition to some actually noticeable graphical enhancements and performance improvements. So like, yeah, Last of Us 2 Remastered probably should have been called Director's Cut, but also if you insist on comparing it to Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut, it's still a bad comparison, because Naughty Dog are astronomically lazy with their re-releases. At Reapercat says you can always have a 30 FPS option. I would never pick it, but to say it shouldn't be there is stupid. Yeah, no, it shouldn't be there. It shouldn't be there. It's 2024. This is a remaster of a 2020 game that came out on the previous generation of console hardware that was running it at 30 frames per second. If you don't want next-gen performance in games, why did you get a next-gen console? Higher frame rates make literally every video game objectively better. They're more responsive, they're smoother. Like, genuinely, the frame rate makes every single game better. The fact that fidelity mode in this remaster doesn't do shit to the original game's frame rate is ridiculous, and it goes against the whole point of releasing an enhanced version of the game in the first place, because this is a game. It is not a movie, it's not a video, it is a game. The fact that Naughty Dog didn't bother to truly enhance the technical aspect of a game, the thing that sets it apart from a movie or a video, like, that's the problem. And I guess at the end of the day, I'm not arguing that there should be no 30 FPS option for those who really want to use it, because I'm the same dude that's always advocating for as many consumer options as possible in games. But my issue, like the real issue that I'm trying to articulate here, is the fact that the fidelity mode of this remaster did so painfully little to actually enhance the visuals, and yet the fidelity mode of the remaster still can't promise 60 FPS while utilizing those enhanced visuals. That is the problem. The original game came out at 30 frames per second. The remastered version has barely any technical graphical enhancements, and yet it's still 30 frames per second. That is the problem. It's less of an issue with the 30 FPS mode existing and more of an issue with the 30 FPS mode being a requirement if you want to utilize the graphics that Naughty Dog claim are the reason for the remastered version coming out. Is that more clear? Like genuinely, I'm trying to articulate this as best as possible. At Croc101 says it's not a scam, it's a pretty good deal, $10 for more content, you just don't like console. I mean, I've talked at length about the $10 thing, but yeah, you're right, I don't like console. I don't. Because of stuff like this. And stuff like this doesn't fly on the PC. Because if Last of Us 2 was on the PC and we wanted graphical improvements, those improvements would either already inherently be part of the game because of the way the PC operates with various parts and whatnot, but also if we really thought we could make it look better, we could just mod it. If we really wanted the bog standard roguelike mode, someone probably could have made an asset flip for free. Like, do I have to talk about all the crazy user-made experiences that have been created out of games' assets? Do I have to talk about games like Minecraft and GTA 5 that have been modded to the point of looking better than anything Naughty Dog could ever dream of putting out on console? So yes, you're right. I don't like the console market. Because stuff like this is completely accepted in the console market, and I don't want stuff like this in my hobby. Look, I'm not telling you that you have to hate Naughty Dog. I'm not telling you that you have to write me a 5-page essay in MLA format about why Last of Us 2 Remastered sucks, but what I am trying to tell you is that you should be aware of what you're encouraging when you pay money for stuff like this. You should be aware of how lazy this remaster is compared to other remasters, and the message it's going to send to the industry if it sells gangbusters without being criticized. That's all this is. And if you insist on using the dumbest arguments possible to defend this, I'm gonna make fun of you for being a fanboy. Because that's what you come across as, and it's not my fault. It's yours. Thanks for the content. Give your money to products that actually deserve it, and maybe the industry will get better, yeah? Okay, toodles.